Jess Williamson, welcome to the Miss Mindset podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to finally connect, not yet in person, but virtually.
One day we're getting there. It's happening really soon, actually. We'll see each other in January.
Yes, absolutely.
So good. So before we dive in, I ask all my guests just high vibes, I'm sure you're all about it. Tell me something that you do for fun.
To be honest, if you asked me this 2 years ago, I'd be like, obviously business. Which, but now I love going to the beach. I've been doing a bit of pottery actually, just for fun, which is good because it's one of those things where you actually forget the time because you're using your hands, your phone's away. And yeah, I used to love doing craft as a kid. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I've seen a few people starting to do pottery lately, and I can totally see the appeal.
Yep.
Yeah,
I ended up with a million tiny bowls, but hey, that's the, that's the part
lots of dip for you. You can have dip bowls. And what is something that you love about yourself?
I think my drive to just, if I want something, I'm not going to really stop until it happens.
Yeah. And you've got so much proof that you are living testament to that. So that's a perfect segue. You can tell the listeners who you are and what you do, a bit of your journey to what got you here.
Yeah. So now I'm a business and mindset coach. And I guess what got me here was my 5 businesses in sort of 5 years. And I started my first business, Etty Swimwear, which was a swimwear brand. I designed and manufactured that. And I just decided I'm going to create a global swimwear brand. And what's the first step? So I kind of just was like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I launched within like 7 months, which is kind of crazy because for anyone in the manufacturing or fashion world, it takes at least 6 to 12 months when you know what you're doing. And I had zero clue what I was doing. I had a background in digital marketing and that was about it. And I enjoyed fashion, like as a lot of people do, but I had no background in fashion, no background in business, no background in manufacturing. And this is why I'm so passionate about mindset now. And I'm sure, I know you're all about mindset, so you'll enjoy this, but there was nothing that said, should I be doing this? Or who am I to be doing this? Or I'll wait until I have more knowledge. I just said, I guess the idea came from I wanted to work in fashion for so long, but it was kind of a catch-22. If you hadn't worked in fashion, you couldn't get a job in fashion. And a lot of the big fashion houses were over in Sydney and Melbourne, and here we are in Perth. So I just decided, I'm just going to make my own. And I had a few different ideas at the time. I had clothing, homewares, swimwear. At the time, I was just building and making Instagram accounts for fun as well. So I had this whole homewares Instagram account with like 5,000 followers, but I thought I'm just going to choose one and give it a go. And I think that in itself is a mindset block that a lot of people get stuck on is what is the perfect idea? And to be honest, if I logically thought it through, like what is the easiest idea? Probably not swimwear and selling it online because swimwear has to fit perfectly, firstly. Secondly, people hate shopping for swimwear because of body conscious issues and all of that, let alone trying to buy it online where you can't try it on. And then it's also a seasonal product and people usually only buy one once a year, if that, some people love their bikinis and they buy a million of them, but most people don't buy them very often. So if I stopped and thought about it logically, I probably never would have done it. So because I had that undoubted self-belief that, I'm just going to create a global swimwear brand. What's the first step? I better go to China and figure out how to manufacture. So I kind of just took it one step at a time and it wasn't easy, but I committed to it. I was on my phone pretty much 24/7 when I was walking from the car, when I was going to the toilet, like I was glued to my phone because I just wanted to make it happen. So that was the first business. And it was and also I decided to launch in February, which is the worst time in the world to launch a swimwear brand because it's not summer anywhere. I mean, it's still summer in Australia, but people only buy until December because then they've decided it's the end. So I didn't really think about any of this stuff. And to be honest, none of that hindered my growth or success because I didn't believe that it was a challenge. I didn't believe that it was a roadblock. So That was pretty cool. And so I launched online, and within 1 week, I was invited to New York Fashion Week, which
Wow.
I still can't believe I went, and I can't wait to go back again. But I got an email saying, hey, we want you to be part of an Australian showcase with top Australian brands in New York Fashion Week. And again, at the time, I didn't think about it being mindset. I was just like, great, I'm going. Let's do it. But now that I look back, I could have again said, well, who am I to be on this global stage with these top brands? I could have said, actually, I have no idea what I'm doing. Thirdly, I had zero money because I just spent all of my life savings on the first collection, and I hadn't sold many. And I had to design a whole new collection because you can't take old stuff to New York Fashion Week. So I had to design and manufacture a whole new collection in less than 6 months when I'd literally just launched and had no money. Plus, I was working a full-time job and had zero annual leave or anything. So there's plenty of reasons why I could have said no, but I said yes. And I was like, I'm going to figure out how the heck to make this happen later. And I did. So it's just mindset shows up at every point. And I was quite lucky that I guess I naturally thought in this way. And it wasn't until, the last few years speaking to a lot more female entrepreneurs, and I realized not everyone thinks that way. So I started to unpack how I had that success, because I used to start to get a lot of questions around, how did you do that? And how did you get those opportunities? And the only reason I was invited to New York Fashion Week was started with the belief. Because I decided this is going to be global, I then took actions. I went to Melbourne and I did a super professional photo shoot with a model and a photographer that I loved that embodied the brand exactly. I didn't just scrimp and think, oh, well, I'll just use the people in Perth. It's not quite what I want, but it'll do. I went to Melbourne and I committed to that vision. So because I did that and I was marketing like crazy in the lead up, that is what got me the invitation. It had nothing to do with anything else, with luck. It was because I had that belief. So it kind of showed up throughout my entire journey. And then after that, I started another business called Somewhere Elsewhere, where I took influencers on trips all around the world, promoting brands. So that was more of an agency business model. And then I decided, because that's not enough, I'm going to also open up a events and photo shoot venue in Perth. And so I grew and built that for a year, but that gave me a lot of anxiety, to be honest, because I didn't love the fact that people were in my venue doing and breaking stuff every weekend when I'm trying to relax. And it was a great business though, because it was getting booked out every single weekend. And some people would probably see this as a failure, but I ended up having to close it down because I sold the business and then the landlord said they're not letting the new owner in. And it caused me so much anxiety. And I just knew it wasn't what my true purpose was. And other people would have sat in that and sort of seen that as a massive failure. But to me, it was massive relief. And now I'm just one step closer to understanding what I don't want from life. And I used to always think more is better. So I was running 5 businesses in 2019. What was the other one? Oh, and I was doing my coaching as well. So I was doing 5 businesses in 2019. I was on a plane every 3 weeks, just for whatever reason, one of the 5 things. And I wasn't eating properly. I wasn't doing anything to for what I really think is success. So it's been a whirlwind couple of years. But I recently sold my swimwear brand to someone in the USA because, again, I'd sort of lost the passion for that. And so now I'm purely focused on my coaching, which is really what I love every day. And I get to show up and help people grow their businesses because I've pretty much owned and run every kind of business model almost that you could. So that's been an awesome way that I can share that knowledge with people, but also adding in the mindset element, which, is the most important part.
It's just speaking my language. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, we hear so many different statistics, and I know people when they start the business, they want to know the nitty gritty how will I do this, and what's the perfect marketing funnel, and how should I do it on Instagram or Pinterest or TikTok or whatever. And you've mentioned mindset so much, and you've had all these successful businesses. So what would you say is the ratio in terms of get your mindset right and then worry about strategy do you feel like mindset's the priority?
Yeah. So the way I guess I do my coaching, I obviously combine the strategy because my background is from marketing and things like that. And I've run the businesses. But if I didn't believe in myself, firstly, none of the strategies would have happened ever. So it's almost like you can't do the strategies without the mindset. It's not even like, oh, you need 50% of 50%. It's just the strategy won't happen because there's Google. Like I had zero experience whatsoever. I had zero mentors, zero anyone who had any clue about manufacturing or fashion or anything. No one gave me any information whatsoever until about 3 years in when I got my first coach. And so how did I do that with no knowledge? Well, I Googled it, or I logically thought, well, I've got to get my designs to the manufacturer somehow. Well, I'm just going to literally draw it and write measurements on this piece of paper. And there is a right way, I guess, of doing it. But even 5 years in, I wasn't doing it the right way, according to fashion experts. I just still thought, well, my way is more efficient. So when you have the right mindset and the right way of thinking, you think, well, I need to get the designs, or whatever the goal is for you, I need to get the designs to the manufacturer. How is the best way that I can communicate this so there's no miscommunication? Well, I'm going to make a spreadsheet and I'm going to draw on a piece of paper. And that's pretty much it. And figure it out, because when you believe that it's possible and when you stop looking for the right way to do things, there is no right way. There's only a right way for you. And sometimes the only way to know what's right for you is to try. And if it doesn't work, then pick yourself back up and keep moving on. Don't feel sorry for yourself that it didn't work, So yeah, I don't think I could say there's a percentage, but without that mindset, like I give my clients tasks all the time. I can see clearly exactly what they have to do. I can get them to that goal, but if they don't believe that they can charge that price, or if they don't believe that it's even possible, or they don't believe that, they have imposter syndrome or whatever it is, then they're not going to take that action. No matter how much I hold them accountable and say, have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? Yeah. That's not the problem. And that's what I think mindset, there's a lot of coaches out there maybe just teaching the strategies, but they're just cracking a whip and saying, come on, do it faster, do it harder, and I don't think that works at all, because then when they don't have the coach, there's no one cracking the whip and they don't do it and they haven't grown. So, yeah,
totally agree. It's so true. I think if there's one thing that I say the most, it would be like, your beliefs create your reality. Your beliefs create your reality. So we need to look at your belief system. What do you do for clients when it's like, I know, and I really do want it, but I actually just don't really believe in myself. I don't know if it's really possible. Like, how do you help your clients to really improve that belief in themselves?
Yeah. So normally I help them try and get to the bottom of it first, because they might say, oh, Jess, I don't have time, or I'm just procrastinating, or they're self-sabotaging, but there's a deeper belief there. Like you can't solve self-sabotage. You can't solve procrastination, because just saying, oh, I better not watch TV, I better do some work, it's not going to work, and you would know this as well. There's a deeper rooted belief. So I try and help them dig deeper into what is the belief, and we get to the core of it, because until they're really aware of what the belief is and where that belief came from, then we're just going to be treating the symptom of procrastination and not treating the actual cause. And so then if we can get to the bottom of that, then we can work on rewriting that and working through all sorts of practices, whether it's journaling or affirmations, or even just the awareness alone can sometimes shift hugely.
Yeah, 100%. And then what do you see as the most common limiting beliefs, or the most common mental blocks and beliefs that are keeping business owners, or any goal setter, it doesn't even have to be business. What do you see as the most common belief blocks?
Yeah, there's a few, and they all have their own angles, I guess, for different people. But to be honest, there is actually a huge fear of success, and people think, don't be silly, Jess. I'm here.
I get that.
You're helping me. I want to be successful. But there's something that just doesn't quite add up. And so it's more common than people think, because it seems illogical. Well, I have a goal. I can't be as scared of it because I want it. I know I want it, but they're avoiding it. And so the fear of success is huge, because maybe they saw someone else be successful and all hell broke loose. Or I had actually one client who came to me, and before she signed up, she kept coming back, and I was like, you want to, but there's something stopping you. So even before she signed up, we sort of shifted this belief. And what was showing up for her was, in the past, she had a super, super successful business, and it was super successful. She had a business partner. Now this business partner ended up addicted to drugs, got in jail, like all hell broke loose, like the worst could happen. And the whole business went under. They lost pretty much all of their money. They lost everything and lost her sense of self and all of the above. And so now that she was trying to start a different business, completely different, completely unrelated, but she said, when I'm successful, this is what happens. And that was a pretty deep rooted belief. And even if it wasn't her, a lot of other people have, experienced or watched other people, or have been told rich people are wankers, or, whatever it is. So the fear of success is huge. But also I'm seeing quite often at the moment is people thinking that you have to work hard to have that success. And so therefore they're overcomplicating things that don't need to be complicated. Or they think that, oh, this is too easy. Let me make it harder for myself because then I'll be more successful. Or they just think I need more work, more things, more strategies. And I'm like, can you just not do all, can you stop doing all of these things? To be honest, a lot of my clients, I tell them, let's just stop doing all of this because we're not going to focus on that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I can resonate with that so much. And I think it's just part of the paradigm of our society, work hard, play hard. It's that whole, like, you're going to have to make lots of sacrifices to get where you want to go. And it's going to be, even the fact that we call it work has such a negative connotation. Like, I've got to go to work. It's going to be hard work. It's like, why? We're not setting ourselves up for ease there, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there are times where you do have to hustle, but it doesn't have to be burnout. You don't have to go to the extremes to make your dreams happen. People just think that they have to follow this route because it's how everyone else has done it. Yeah. And sometimes there's an easier way.
100%. And you've mentioned a few things there where I just thought, oh, we're going to get into visualization and the end goal. It's so good because you were so clear about the end goal. Like, no, it's going to be global, and therefore I know exactly how to align my action steps.
Yeah.
How important is that? And how do you help clients and people set the goal so that they can then create the action to align with it?
Yeah. And we spoke about this just briefly beforehand. And, most people, before they come on board with me, they have to fill out quite a lengthy questionnaire and then have a free call with me. But even in that questionnaire, I write, what does your dream life look like? Or what is your goal right now? 99% of the answers say, I want to grow my business, or I want to scale, I want to get an office, and I want to get a team. And when I speak to them, and the first thing that I do with every client is, why? Why do you want that? And again, even if they feel like they're clear, they're like, yep, I want a team, I want the office, I want to be jet setting, I want to be doing all of this. A lot of the time they don't. What they really want is more time with their kids, as an example. And they think that having a team and having this and that is going to give them more time with their kids. But usually it doesn't, because then you've got more to do. You've got to deal with staff plus run your business. And, and that's great if that is your idea of success and your goal. But for me, it took me a while to realize that I actually don't want staff. I actually don't, I could scale and grow my business. I could do some done for you services. I have people asking me all the time, can you do my Facebook ads for me? And while I could, I don't want to. So, until they define that idea. And I spoke to one of my clients and she said, Jess, I feel like I want to be speaking on stages and having this because this person's talking about it on their Instagram and they're making $1 million and they've got 10 staff and they're doing this and that. But at the same time, you see that same person on the Instagram stories having breakdowns on the daily because they're so burnt out. And she said to me, Jess, that was actually an eye-opener for me because I don't want any of that. But because I see it on social media, because people talk about money, and I think money is the biggest trap that people think, oh, I want $1 million or I want 6 figures. they think that's their goal, but they don't know why. They've just
Mm-hmm.
pulled this number out because they think it sounds successful.
Yeah.
And that is the number one thing I hear. It's like, oh, I want to be 6 figures. Or if they're already at 6 figures, they're like, what's next? Better be 7, better be at 7 figures. And maybe that's not what you need, or they don't know why they want it either. So it's like, what is the purpose of that? Because we could get you there. I can help you find staff. I can help you do that. But do you really want to end up there? So yeah, getting super clear on that and what it looks like in all areas, not just, okay, my business looks like this, but how does your life look like? Because your business is part of your life. It's not running solo. Otherwise, you end up sacrificing your life for the business. Yeah, because otherwise, like I said, me as a coach, or I'm sure a lot of other coaches who maybe miss out that step, and I know you are big on that one, but I know that I've personally had other coaches that are like, great, you want to grow your business? Here's all the things you need to do.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, shit, now I'm too busy and burnt out and not eating and like literally doing nothing but working. And great, I can get there, but didn't want to end up here.
That's so true. And I've actually just had a few memories as you were speaking. I've had so many clients that have come to me and said, like, I have hit all my goals. Like I got all my goals, but I don't know, I don't feel happy. Like I'm not satisfied. And it's like, I thought that, the 10K months or the whatever it is, this number that we pulled out of our backside, I thought that was going to be the thing that makes me happy. And it's like, well, that's the first problem then, and why did you pull that number? And it like exactly like what you said, especially in that growing a business world, it's like, you get taken down that rabbit hole of like, ooh, 10K months, 20K months, 30, whatever. But so what? Why?
Yeah.
Why do you want that?
And I think it's a problem. I mean, this day and age, we're almost ripping apart society, like society was built over how many years on a specific model of 9 to 5, work until you retire, then you can have fun. And it takes generations of beliefs to rewire the fact that actually you can go to the beach on a Thursday if you want. You don't have to work. And even for me, at some points, I used to catch myself thinking, oh, I can't post about this on social media because what might my clients think, or and I was like, no, actually, this is the perfect example of I'm going to the beach on a damn Tuesday because I want to, I'll do the work another time. So I think that that's a huge one because society was built on a certain idea. And I think it's only now that we're breaking down all of these generational worth of beliefs.
Yeah, it's so, and everything in our DNA and our biology wants to fight against it because it's just so programmed. So it's just, I find it so much fun to break down old beliefs and create new ones. Yeah. So you've mentioned like having a really clear goal. Do you have any, like you've mentioned affirmations, visualization, or I don't know if you do visualization. What are some of the practices that you sort of recommend for clients or even in your own life? You've got the goal and now here's some tools to really help get you there fast.
Yeah, a few things. So I think obviously it's get that clarity, but then also keeping focused on it. So don't just write it down and then forget about it. I mean, writing it down is great because sometimes I've written down goals and I've lost the piece of paper and then I've found it like 6 months later and magically all the things came true. And that's because that intention was there. But if you can set an intention every single day to get one step closer to that goal, then you're going to get there sooner rather than later. But yeah, there's so many different ones. And to be honest, I kind of customize it per my client because I do mostly one-on-one, which is what I love. But I've actually I don't know if you've actually seen, but I've just released my own journal, which is all about goals and mindset. And I try and keep it really simple as well, because a lot of my clients maybe don't quite know that they need mindset yet, or they're not quite at that level. So I keep it simple, but it's still quite powerful. So just working through, I like to get my clients actually to work on 3 things that they're proud of achieving, because sometimes when people practice gratitudes or things like that, they're external. They're external to them. So I like to bring it back because a lot of their beliefs are around, I can't do it, or I'm not capable, I'm not worthy, or, all of that. So I like to get them to write 3 things that they're proud of. And it becomes, instead of saying, I'm proud of making X dollars, it's like, I'm proud of showing up every single day consistently, even when it was hard, to result in that sort of result as well. So that's something that I use quite often for them.
Yeah, I love that one. I say to my clients too, like when you are doing your, like, you know, what are you praising yourself for? Let's reinforce the human that you are being rather than all the things that you can do. Because if you're going to praise yourself for what you can achieve, you're going to set yourself up for that hustle burnout culture where, like, if you don't do anything, you feel like you're a piece of crap. And it's like, no, you can praise yourself for being a kind-hearted human with a beautiful smile. Like, that's fine. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned at the beginning, and now I want to sort of switch gears a little bit, because I love how you said, like, when you were invited to New York, it was like, holy shit, I've got no money. I've spent all my money, but I'm making it happen. And this brings up the whole money mindset and being resourceful rather than having lots of resources. So can you just speak on that a little bit? What does that mean for the people that are like, oh, but I don't have the money to grow my business, or I don't have the money for scaling or whatever? What do you say to that?
This is the number one excuse I think I hear, and I'm sure you hear it as well. The number one excuse, and I can't tell you the amount of times that I've said yes and figured out how the heck it's going to happen later. So New York was one example. And I didn't mention earlier that you have to pay for the models and stuff. Like, it's not free to go to New York, and you've got to fly there, and in New York's not a cheap place. So there was a lot of costs involved. And then I also actually did all my own press, and I hired someone to help me with press and marketing and all of that around that. And then there was another time where I actually signed up for a coach who was $50,000 and I didn't even have $10,000. And if I just looked at my bank account and said, oops, don't have enough, guess I can't do it. And I would have just felt defeated and thought, oh, damn it, I really know I needed this, but too bad I don't have the money. I was like, do I need this or not? Yes, I do. Oh, well, I'll sign up and I'm going to figure it out later. And I think so many people lead with the external. So how much time do I have? How much money do I have? How much resources do I have? And what can I do with that? Instead of saying, what do I really need? What is the right decision? And then how can I make the money? How can I find the money? And to be honest, it wasn't a conscious thing. I didn't go away and say, okay, where am I going to get $40,000 extra from here, here, and here? And this is how I'm going to do it. I just said, I'm going to figure it out. And because I planted that seed in my subconscious mind saying, I'm going to find the money and I'm going to make the money. To be honest, I don't know where it came from, but it came and I paid for it and I didn't have to pull out, later on. It happened. And the challenge with that though is no one believes me until they've done it themselves. And I actually had one lady that followed me on Instagram. I shared some money mindset tips once, and I've actually got it on a podcast, but I shared that and she was like, all right, let me dip my toe in the water for this. And she comes from a bit of a scarcity mindset and never wanted to commit to spending money on her business at all because she wasn't making any sales, but that's catch 22. So she decided, I'm going to spend $300 on a branding package, which was pretty big for her. To be honest, that's pretty cheap branding package from what I've come across, but she spent $300. It was like $300 and something. It was a pretty specific number. The very next day, she got an order through her online store for the exact same amount. And she hadn't had like an order for a couple of weeks, exact same amount. So it shows that when you say, or when you commit to things, your brain says, I've got to work this out. I've got to figure it out. And you won't even consciously know sometimes. But if you're just starting with this and maybe you don't believe it, or you're still a little bit hesitant, I always encourage people to say, what do I really need? Is this the right decision? Ignore the money, ignore the money situation. What is the right decision for me? And decide. You don't even have to pay it yet, but just decide. And things happen. Things will start to happen. Or you could even consciously just ask yourself, well, okay, I really want to do this. How can I make the money? How can I find the money? What resources can I leverage to make this possible?
Yeah, so true. Because it's like, I think most people, they cut themselves off to even exploring the possibility. It's like, oh, I don't have the money. Relying on current circumstances to build the future is going to create more of the same circumstances. So I always say, like, forget the current circumstances and act as if the future version of you, what would she do? And I say to clients all the time, like for people listening, like if you found out, and this is what always made me think about like, whoa, true. If you found out today that, I don't know, your loved one was held hostage and there was a ransom letter that said, come up with $1 million tomorrow, you're not seeing your family again. I know that come hell or high water, I'm finding that money.
Yep.
And it will happen. And it's like, that's the energy that we want, really.
Absolutely. And even from, I guess, another point of view on that, you could even, and something that I sometimes talk about as well is, if someone says, give me, and to use your example, give me $1 million and I'll give you 10 back.
You'll find it.
You're going to find the one because you're going to get 10 back. And yes, not everything pays off in business, but you gain so much learnings from that then you use to continue to catapult. So maybe that one investment or that one decision didn't pay off in itself, but the learnings that you can take from that to then use and catapult yourself in the right direction is just invaluable.
Oh, so true. So true. I feel like I could talk to you for hours because I love mindset and all of this stuff. I don't want to waste any of your time because I know you're very busy. So I want to go into some rapid fire questions just to finish off. So the first thing that comes to mind when I say, if you could have a dinner date with anybody, dead or alive, who would you choose and why?
This one always stumps me. Yeah, that's a tough one. It's so hard. Do you know why I find this question hard? Because we live in an age with the internet that can almost tell you everything about someone. And my brain works very critically anyway. So I would read what they've said or analyze what they've done. And I would say, I can take this learning from this. So that's an interesting question. Who would it be? I think I'm just really stuck on that one, to be honest. There's no one that actually
think about it.
Comes to mind.
Yeah, that's fine. Nobody. You could go out for dinner, solo dinner, I recommend.
Yeah.
I totally recommend.
If it's in Hawaii, that sounds like a good trade-off for me.
Yeah. Oh, God, don't even. I want to travel so bad. What's the one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is in a little bit of a block with their business?
Well, figure out what your block is firstly, because so many people think it's not knowing what the next step is, but that's an excuse. So figure out what your block is so that you can move forward, because that block's going to keep coming up if you just bypass it. So figure out what the block is, because there's usually a reason why you feel stuck. Because to be honest, and this is bad to say, but I've never really felt stuck. I've not loved certain situations, but I've always seen a way out, like exiting certain businesses or whatever it is, because I just am like, well, what's next?
You just have more creative thought rather than I'm stuck. So true.
Yeah.
What is the legacy that Jess Williamson is going to leave on this planet?
I would love it if everyone in the world could believe anything is possible. And that is like my motto that I kind of put on my journal, on all my things, is like, dream big and make it your reality. But people don't even dream big to start with. So I would love for people to realize that they're capable of whatever they want.
So good. And what is the one piece of advice that you would give to a younger version of yourself on your toughest day?
So many things. The world is not ending. The world is not ending, because I've always been like quite a stressed person until the past couple of years, where I've found a bit more balance and not put that ridiculous stress on myself. But I would say that, so just take some time to chill out. Things can wait was probably the biggest thing. Like, I would always think, oh, I've got an idea, I better do it yesterday because someone's going to steal my idea, or someone else will beat me to it, or whatever it was. So things can wait. And also, can you stop forgetting to like eat, sleep, or like shower? Just
enjoy life.
Wake up and serve yourself first before your business.
Love it. Oh, so good. Jess, thank you so much for this chat. I've loved every second of it. We'll have to do a part 2 because I'm like, so much mindset stuff that we can talk about. Love it.
I could chat all day about this as well. So it'll be fun when we can finally catch up in person as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.